sorry. My voice is shot, you guys. Yay. It's like right there. I was like, should I do no filter? My makeup's starting to fall off. It's been 12 hours, yeah. 12 hours since I've had makeup on. But how are you? I missed you. I hope you guys are doing well and feeling well. I was debating on filming a subject. I was like, you know what? We'll do something kind of small and something I saw on TikTok that kind of inspired me to talk to you guys about. I kind of have touched on it a little bit. Nevertheless, let's get into today's subject, and it's going to be teaching them young while they is young. Ooh. When I'm doing my makeup, I'll scroll on TikTok just to hear, stories and things like that and what people, are talking about on TikTok, all the crazy things, right? And I came across this lady who was so frustrated, and I instantly related to her. And she was talking about how you're creating a monster in your kids when you're not teaching them how to do things on their own at a young age. Exactly what she said is absolutely correct. You are creating a monster by doing all the things for your kids. This is what I mean by if your kids are teenagers and you're cooking for them, like I'm confused. Like people look at me crazy when I say this stuff. But apparently I'm not the only one that's like, no, you got it twisted, cuz I try to tell you in a nice way. You know, this is the problem with our society. The more you do for others, the less they'll do for themselves. Now, let me tell you something. I see this all the time, especially in my industry, and it drives me absolutely insane. Like going into studios time and time again, and it's not every studio, no. And it's not like producers, directors, it's co-stars. Where like I'll walk into a studio and like the whole place is a disaster. People will leave their trash and this and everything's unorganized and XYZ and everything's like beyond out of order. And I'm like, I can't work like this. Like I use first of all, you see how clean everything is around me all the time. Now, I love everybody I've ever worked with thus far in my career. And I've got along with everybody, you know, thus far in my career. Of course, I have my favorites and stuff like that. But my favorites are the most organized. And I can tell, honestly, how someone really is by how they drive, how clean and pristine their car is, and by just seeing their stuff in person, by like how dirty their handbag is or how dirty their XYZ is. Like I can tell instantly the kind of parents they had if they had like a what is that called, a golden retriever mom and dad who just did everything for them, because as young adults they're struggling, even as people much older than me, they struggle with trying to keep things in order. It's not funny and it's not something that I you know make jokes of at all. I see it as an alarming thing. If someone can't even do things for themselves and keep their areas clean throughout their career, like I can't imagine what their home life is like. A lot of people don't understand that the state of your home is the state of your mind. I don't care how good someone really is in their career. I pay attention to characteristics, and characteristics are going to, for me, I can portray their long-term success based off of that. And that's a trait. Your cleanliness and how you do things on your own will project how your future is going to be. Think about it. Someone's state of their home is the state of their mind. Is my light really flickering right now? Because Jesus is like, Daniela, Preaching. Yes, ma'am. Let's see. What is going on here? Okay. These are not electrical, by the way, you guys. Oh, I was turning it off. I was like, why is it not turning on? There it is. Okay. Hopefully we fixed it. Okay. I cannot imagine how somebody's true mind really why I guess I didn't charge that one all. So I think that's why it's like cutting off on me. I didn't charge it all the way. I should have. Um, it We'll just leave them off because I need to take them down to charge. It's not electrical. They're wireless. You just disconnect everything and you charge the bulb. So this is the one I didn't charge the longest. It was the other one that I did. So I got to break it all down and charge it all up and stuff. But yeah, so such a really a huge thing. And I am a detail oriented person. I'm very like I pay attention to the small things because the small things are what matter the most. A lot of people pay attention to the bigger things, right? Like for example, in business, I've noticed this with a lot of people and it's something I'm studying for my businesses and my companies that I'm creating now and I'm learning off of the decisions they're making. They're so huge on the short term things. And for example, like views. Views don't equal money. Followers don't equal money. Here's where I'm going to kind of break down a little bit of my career. So, on my older pages that I've had, for those of you who I had on Facebook, I had like thousands and thousands and thousands of people on Facebook. Those pages that I had are not what defined my career. It was not what started my career. I mean, sure, because I started doing lives on Facebook, and then that's how like I was like, I've done lives, I'm comfortable on lives. And that's how I started doing lives a few years ago, right? But I've always been really comfortable on the camera. It was really like the small things that got me into the positions and the roles that I've landed this far in my career. It was my consistency. It was me staying true to myself. And it was all the other things in the end. Of course, you've got to be marketable and you've got to, you've got to really work harder than other people around you and be willing to stay like working 12 to 15 hours a day. It's not ever about really the numbers, and that's what people pay attention to. So when you look at a child, don't pay attention to the age that they are. That's really going to affect them. Like teaching your child to drive at 18, 19 years, 20, that is very, I just don't, I can't wrap my head around how late people are starting their kids. And I've told you guys before, I get so much backlash every single time I bring up the fact that I've been working for 21 years. People are shook. Like, how? Why? Of course, like in some ways, I'm like, how could my family work me when it wasn't even necessary to work me? Because my family was very well off. They didn't need to work their child, but they did it in benefit of me to develop work ethic. What is the number one thing that everybody complains about with my generation, with Gen Z? Is the work ethic. And you can't blame them. You gotta blame the people that raised them. Sure. You're an adult, you make your decisions, you should know better. No one's ever going to know how a rose smells if you don't put it in front of their nose. I get so much backlash about my family every time I bring up the fact that I am 27. I've been working for 21 years. I've been working since I was 6 years old. People are shook about it all. And I'm like, I mean, you're 40 something years old and I've worked as long as you've been working. It's not a flex to be able to give your kids everything that you never had as a child if they don't understand the value in which they're receiving. It's not about what you give to your kids. It's about what you leave in them in which will make them successful. You have seen this. time and time and time again, where there are kids who come out of incredibly successful situations and end up nearly unalived because they were just given everything and never really broken down why and how to earn or anything like that. Over spoiling your kids is going to create brats. Like, you are creating a monster. It's never been a flex to me to have friends or people around me who were just straight up spoiled. None of my friends who are in specific tax brackets were ever genuinely spoiled. They've all been working at such a young age. A lot of their parents taught them how to recreate what they had built. Unfortunately, for my situation, the empire crashed when I was 12 years old. That's that's moral of it all. I didn't fully get the opportunity to learn investing in real estate. I didn't get those opportunities to learn how to mow the grass I was 12 years old when it all began to crash for me with my family dying and all those other things. I mean, other family members died when I was younger, brutally. I'm not saying that I'm not learning it now. I'm learning it in a much later age versus, I would have been 16 years old. You know what I mean? 17 years old making those moves. But I have to learn from my family friends. I have to learn from them because my family is gone. You know what I mean? So it's not a flex to spoil your kids. It's a true flex when your kids have manners, when your kids have set boundaries, when your kids respect themselves and respect authority. That's the flex. It's not the flex of they have, you know, 500 Louis Vuittons. That's not the flex at all. To have spoiled brats ain't it, cuz it's just not it. Like, sure, sure, spoil them all you want and give them all you want. Wise words from my grandfather. And he used to say it all the time. I told you guys some way, somehow on one of my videos. Okay. Wise words. My grandfather used to always tell me, Miha, what are you going to do when I'm gone? What are you going to do when I'm gone? When I would ask him, Grandpa, why do I have to learn this? Why do I got to do this? Why do I do this? What are you going to do when I'm gone? Why? Because the king does not live forever. That is the hard truth. The king does not live forever. The king and queen must go some way, somehow, at some time. I've spoke about life expectancy last time, how life expectancy is not as long as it used to be anymore. People are not living to their 90s anymore. Some of my family members have, but a lot of them have passed very, very young. I fear for my generation and the next generations to come because not very many of them can do on their own. And that is very scary. It's not what the world is, not just what the world is going through, but you have such an incredible, complex situation going on with the world right now. Then you put the people who can do the least in that situation, and you're looking at a complete, utterly disaster. I mean, a bloodbath that this is going to be. And I'm telling you guys, like, from what I have seen, it's mind blowing that kids don't even speak for themselves, not taking self accountability, not knowing how to keep things organized, not knowing like when to put gas in their car or when to check the oil in your car when it needs to be like simple basic life things. They cannot do it. My generation and that next generation that's being born and coming in right now, It's if your child this year is 15 years old to 27, we are Gen Z. And if your child is 15, 16 years old and doesn't know how to drive yet, doesn't know how to cook for themselves, doesn't know how to clean the house without you having to tell them how to do it, good luck. Good luck. Exactly what that lady said. I agree with her. 10 out of 10. It's not about being the helicopter parent. It's not about being the micromanaging parent. It's about, do you let them problem solve on their own? Kids don't know how to problem solve. I'm shook. They don't know how to show up to work on time. They don't know that you only gain experience by working for a very long time and moving your way up and problem solving your way in and out of. If you I just don't even know how y'all walk around like that this is not a big deal. Oh, you just wait. You wait. Allow your kids to problem solve on their own. If they get into trouble at school, you tell them, look, analyze the situation, accept what has happened, then come to the conclusion. If you made the mistake, follow through with the consequences, okay? Or fight it. Let me give you a small little scenario of what happened when I was in high school, a freshman in high school with one of my English teachers, okay? So I'll never forget it. It was my English teacher. She was a white lady. And I was going through the whirlwind of court and the media and the press and everything like that with my grandfather's death. Because remember, that went on for years after his death. Now, I had finished my work in the workbook and I closed it and I put my head down and I was just like crying silently. She was saying, if you are done, just sit there, right? And of course, all of my teachers and coaches, all the teachers and coaches were informed, first of all, banned everybody, knew what was going on with my situation. And the day before was really rough for me in court. Really, really rough. Mind you, I'm 15 years old, okay? A literal child going through all these huge adult things. And I go to school that morning and I just like had a moment. It was like in tears. Sorry, I don't want to cry. So she wrote me up because I didn't just sit there. I just put my head down and I was crying. So she wrote me up, went to the principal's office. I was a varsity athlete in a starting position in softball. You cannot be in a varsity starting position and get into any trouble. No trouble at all. I got sent to the principal's office and I was put in detention for a week straight after school, which interfered with softball practice. And my coach came looking for me that day because I had to go to detention right after that. My coach was like, D, what happened, bro? What happened? And I told her what happened, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing my coach can do about it. She's like, if you miss, you can't play the tournament this weekend. Like, and that affects you as a student gaining scholars. You can't do that at all. The moment that college coaches are looking at you and you're being scouted, the coaches have to document everything, not just your grades, not just like, your conduct, but also like your tardiness and like how committed you are. Yes, my high school was very strict on that. And so one thing my coach told me, she said you could take it to like the law room or something. She said you can appeal this. Okay, go talk to whoever, blah, 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 and go do that. Get that set like right after detention. So I told my detention teacher, whatever, hey, I'm going to go appeal this because I need to get back on the field, XYZ, and try to fight it. So they let me do it. And I called my mom and I said, hey, mom, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to fight it. And I need you to pick me up at this time today, but I'm missing practice today. Just so you know, pick me up at the front of the school. Okay. Mama said, we'll talk later, but I'll see you then. So we go and do the process because they take you out for detention like middle of the day. And I had our class in the morning. So by the time that time came, they had us in that appeal process, which is where you tell the court of your school, their students and like teachers and like, there's like leaders of the board, the school board that show up, and the kids never win. Kids don't ever win the appeal process. So of course I went in there, I had all my documents, and of course they knew that their emails that went out about everything, but I did say, yes, I did not listen. I didn't sit up. I sat down and I cried because of what's just been going on. It's so overwhelming that like I don't even want to come to school, but I'm here. I'm doing what I have to do. I of course mentioned to them that honestly, the only thing that's keeping me going is school. And it is my sports. And it is that I have something at the end of the tunnel here. God, I don't want to get emotional because in high school, it was such a, I don't even know if I can say the word suicidal situation for me throughout high school. It was really, really, really rough because my life was never the same after all of that. Like it never was. And, I just told them, hey, look, it has not been easy. And I'm not asking for, an easier way versus the other kids, but just like look at my situation. Okay. If you guys skip me on the appeal process, that's fine. I'll write it out. Whatever it is, I'll be in trouble. Shockingly, I won the appeal. And the teacher was obviously aware. Unfortunately, because the percentage is so low on the appeal process when students win, and she was well aware. And I wasn't in school at the time where like everything was so sensitive with kids. Like, no, it was like where they were very strict. Like you got detention for every little thing, right? If your shirt wasn't tucked in, boo. Okay, we remember those days, guys. Well, unfortunately, they released her from the school and had her moved to another school because she knew and was well aware of my scenario. They let it go. They took it off my record, and I didn't ever get into trouble ever again. But if you pay attention to the 15-year-old me, the 15-year-old me was willing to face those consequences. I was willing to put my own softball career on the line, something that I had worked for several years prior to that. It was my dream to play for Coach Rufino at Waltrip High School. That was one of my dreams. And my first season was coming up with her. And I was absolutely devastated that I would not be playing on that field for Coach Rufino. And has been number one in the state longer than any other coach in the state of Texas, being number one in district, et cetera, et cetera. Like she's broken so many records. My cousins played for her. Anne-Marie Taylor is my idol. All I ever wanted as a little girl was one shot. That was it. That was all I ever wanted, was to see if I could adhere to those standards that I saw those girls play at that level and go to state and go to playoffs and do all those things, and also do very well in select ball on top of that, and get full rides to college. Like those were goals that I had as a child, but I was willing to say, I'll throw it away because I didn't listen. I made that mistake. I hold myself accountable, and I will write all this attention for the rest of the week. And if I don't play this first tournament, it is what it is for whatever comes from my future. I will fight even harder. Because there's a fire lit under me. There always has been a fire lit under me. My mom barely knew the situation. My coach barely really even my coaches barely knew this situation. You know, I was willing to give it all up and say, maybe not give it all up, but have the risk of not getting the scholarships I received later on in my high school athletic career because I had that. Not listening is huge. That's like not listening to your coach. You see what I'm saying? And then you made the mistake on top of that because you didn't listen. It's one thing to not listen to the coach and then you make the play, right? But it's not good if you don't listen and then you don't make the play. That's terrible, right? That means you should have listened. Okay. But I won the appeal process. You best bet I packed my bags. I was going to practice, y'all. I literally, I forgot who it was. I forgot the guy's name, but he was like, hey, practice, Pheno's practice starts in like 10 minutes. You can go to the locker room, you still go change and make it to practice. This is going to be like wiped off, right? From like the hours I did at detention because they send you like in the middle of the day or something. And so my mom was pulling up and I ran out there to the front, Waltrip High School, those big red doors. And I was like, Mom, I'll see you after practice. I'll see you at like, 6:30, 7 o'clock or whatever practice ended at. I'll see you later. She's like, all right, thumbs up. And she turns around to go back home or go run errands or whatever she had to go do. I ran to that locker room. I changed so quick. I grabbed my glove, put it in my right hand, obviously because I'm left-handed, so I throw up my left hand. And I was like in there with my 13-inch glove and I was going up just to go run, go do our warm ups. And coach was like, hey, D. And I was like, I'm here, Pheno. I'm here. We're good to go. And that was that. Do you think that that would have happened if I didn't A, have the confidence, B, understand how to problem solve, and C, just have my parents do everything for me? Do you think that 15-year-old girl would have ever landed those scholarships? One decision can absolutely change your life forever. And most people are not willing to accept those consequences. I was willing to go to war for my scholarships. Later on in my high school years, I ended up going to war with my new softball coaches. But I lived my dream for 2 years with Darcy Ruffino and played for her. There were some good decisions and some bad decisions, but neither of those decisions affected my career. They actually catapulted me into being a better player. To think that there are some people out here in the world right now that cannot problem solve. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, if you do not have work ethic, if you do not have some sort of mental way to stabilize yourself, make good decisions, and be a good problem solver, you end up absolutely nowhere, period. Nowhere. There are some people right now that have so much money, more money than most people in the world can ever imagine. And they stumble over problem, and problem, and problem, and problem, it becomes a problem because they're not true problem solvers. There are some people that can work really hard and become very, very wealthy, right? What we deem successful, but then they end up broke in the end. Why? They were taught that talent was all they needed. They were taught that just showing up was all they needed. But where they were failed in their childhood was that you have to do it all. You have to have the risk. You have to have the sacrifice. You have to have the will to go further and further and push that mile and fight the good fight and work when you're sick, work when you have wisdom teeth pulled out, work when you're going through a miscarriage. I've worked through all of those scenarios time and time again. 105-degree fever, throwing up every 20 minutes, getting back in front of the camera. I have so many scenarios where I just like wanted to give up. But it was what my family taught me, in which I didn't allow myself to. I knew that I've been through worse than this. I've been through worse than this. I've been through worse than this. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Just keep going. Even no matter how, and people like, oh, you got to be motivated. No, you have to be disciplined. That's what this is also about, is being disciplined, having the passion for discipline. We've talked about this before. But where do you develop those skills as a child, as a literal kid? Yesterday, when I was going through some of my family's memorabilia and pulling up childhood photos, there's a photo of me in school, and I'm 3 years old. 3 years old in school, because my mother put me through, like, you have to pay early to put your kid through school. I don't think I started school till like 5 years old, like actual like pre-K, kindergarten, all that. But she put me in school at 3 years old, and there's a picture of me that says 3 to 4 year olds, like, school. It was literally a school photo of me. I'm 3 years old. No idea what's going on, you know? You know? All I know is that my parents know what's best. Not all parents know all the time. Parents that are adults know what's best 9 times out of 10. Just because you have sweet kids, just because you have kids with gratitude, doesn't mean you have kids with the best attitude. Okay? I just thought that I'd go through this with you guys. That lady inspired me to talk about this today. I was like, "Hooray, mama. Yes, ma'am. I agree. I agree 100%. The less you do for your kids, the more they'll do for themselves. And it will amaze you at how much they will achieve in their life and how many fires they put out." You ask me personally, what kind of kids do I want? I want people scared of my kids, because that's what I want. I want people to see my children as they're far beyond go-getters. They are doers. That's my hopes and dreams for my kids. I have so many plans for them. They're not even here. I have names, all kinds of things like that. I feel like I was meant to be in that position, like a true mom, like a true, like, I want to be there with them daily and putting them in sports and behind the wheel at 9 years old, like I was taught, like things like that. I want them to have careers at such a young age, and have, accounts under their names. Not that I put money in there, but that they earned it themselves. Now, that may not be your goal, but truthfully, your goal as a parent, not your goal, but the point of you being the parent is to teach them how to be an adult. When they're already adult, you can't teach them how to be an adult. It's too late. It's too late. Then your kids don't call you, and they don't wish you a happy birthday. And then they don't come to you for things. I know people like that. Oh, I keep them far away from me. I'm like, no, sir. No, sir. Alrighty, y'all. Well, I hope y'all had a good time listening. Maybe a little tear or two. Maybe a little hee, a little ha ha. I love you guys so much. You have a wonderful night, and I will see you next weekend.